The video is gonna be broken into three main segments. First one is a skill build guide, second one being an add-on guide, and the last one is gonna be about crystal setups, both budget and best in slot. A little talk about the new skill build window before we get into the skill builds themselves. Now if you're an old player, this new UI scares the living shit out of you, and if you're a new player it doesn't look that inviting either. I'm not sure why they had to make the UI take up half my screen, but it is what it is. You can also disable the previews for skills themselves, and that helps a bit with clarity, but all around it's still pretty bad. Let's actually get into the skill build guide, shall we? Now if you're someone leveling up and you don't have your awakening just yet, here are the skills I would urge you to focus on for damage purposes. Spinning Sash, Ground Smash, and Scars of Dusk. Also use Ground Roar for pulling the mobs closer. Movement is an entirely different thing though. A warrior has an insane amount of ways that it can move around in pre-awakening. I've made a separate video, dedicated pretty much only to that. But the ones I would recommend getting first are Charging Frost and Shield Charge. When you actually get awakening, and you do meet the level requirements for them, get the first level of the skills on screen and slowly start leveling these up. I would max Gravedigg first and Slashing the Dead first, since you will use these abilities to AoE the mobs down. At this point you can also rank up Ground Roar as much as you can, because the range of the pulls increases with each level up. It goes without saying, but get the Infinite Mastery and Fitness Training in the passive window every time you have some spare skill points, since they provide some nice extra survivability. Skilled Hunter also helps a bit with damage against mobs. Once you have most of the things maxed out in Awakening, it's time to focus on pre-awakening again. Get the absolute version of Ground Smash, it is one of the most used protected skills that we have, and also get the absolute version of Takedown, since it is the single most used CC in most warriors' eyes. I would highly suggest you start focusing on movement skills at this point. I have a movement and cancel guide out right now that will shine a light on the skills below and what they do. Get the ultimate version of Forward Sash, Shield Charge and Chopping Kick. Get Upper Shield Strike as well and bind it to your hotbar. Also unlock and bind the non-absolute version of Scars of Dusk to your hotbar. Scars of Dusk is a really nice forward guard to rotate that actually gives you a DP buff as well. At this stage I would focus on getting the Bombs, Frenzied Spear and Shield Tide. We have most of the movement skills we needed at this point, so time to get some skills for comboing and damage. Get the absolute version of Spinning Sash, Counter and Piercing Spear. I would place all three of these skills in the same category in terms of usefulness. A couple of other skills that I commonly use for damage is the absolute version of Shield Charge, Forward Sash and Chopping Kick. I personally really like using Deep Thrust as well for an easy air smash, but that's a preference thing. On that note, we have pretty much covered everything of most importance. You can finish getting the absolute versions of most skills at this point. You have everything you may need. So what skills should you lock? This is more of a subjective thing that changes a lot with a warrior's skill level and playstyle. The skills I've included here are the ones that I think would get in the way of a lot of new players. It being Charging Sash, Heavy Strike, Kick, Shield Strike and Evasion. Now, you should also lock Force Slash, because Force Slash is actually broken and it breaks counter, so you should never use it. You should also lock Ground Slash and Frenzied Strikes as well, and you should probably bind it to your hotbar, since it's a very useful skill. Just the normal controls for it are extremely bad and inconvenient. Another commonly asked question is, what skills should you put on your hotbar? Let's rapid fire these. Frenzied Strikes, because the normal controls for it are terrible. Scars of Dusk, Piercing Spear, and Upper Shield Strike. Some people like to use Healed Strike for the extra DP buff it gives, but I personally just use Merciless, which gives the same buff. Pulverize is another one that you can hotbar because sometimes you might press it accidentally instead of Reckless Blow, but I never had a problem with it, so I don't use it. Additionally, some meme stuff like Warcry and Frenzied Dash can also be put onto your hotbar. If you think activating the bombs is weird in any way, then you can, just put them on your quick slots. I actually use this with Shield Tide personally. Style skills. Now, I did tell you to look Heavy Strike, Kick and Evasion, but Okay, bro, we are talking about meme shit now, okay? All of them are amazing for meme combos. Also, Deep Ground Slash is a pretty good skill to do lingering crit combos with, although it's quite SP intensive, so I would only get this when you've gotten everything else. Whirlwind Strike is one of my favorites as well. I hate saying this because I know people don't care that much, but I do explain these things in the last 2 Awakening skill guides, and I don't want to repeat myself too much. Now, I will stop you here for a second. If you want a really budget setup for large scale and node war purposes, I have it on the screen right now. And do keep in mind that this is the bare minimum. This is still missing quite a few things. On to the add-ons we go. Pre-awakening is gonna be a lot easier, so let's start off with that. It's pretty straightforward. The only thing worth changing around is the defense of shield charge into attack speed, but I personally prefer the defense. Awakening is gonna be a lot different. For our first choice, we're gonna go with Gravedig, and there are actually 4 viable add-ons for Gravedig itself. If you do any sort of grinding on your warrior, then attack against monsters plus 30 is a must-have, and all other 3 are extremely good as well. I personally recommend you use PvP attack plus 15 coupled with the HP recovery for PvP. And this is the one I'm running. You can choose whatever fits your goal, of course. If you want to grind, then get the grinding one. Our next choice is gonna be Solar Flare. The attack speed on it is a must-have. 10% attack speed is insane. For the second one, I personally run accuracy, but you can run defense as well. Now for the third one, you can choose between 2 options: Reckless Blow or Ankle Break. Reckless is pure stats with 15 PvP attack and 20 defense, while Ankle Break gets you 10% movement speed, which can be quite insane at times, but I personally prefer running Reckless for the pure stats that it gives. Now the last segment is crystal setups, and I'm gonna start off with the budget version. But do note that most of the explanations are the same for budget and best in slot crystals. I honestly would never recommend you run this budget setup, but I had it here for completeness sake. Few noteworthy things is running precisions in main hand. This is a must-have for PvP. Resistances are an insane annoyance, and these crystals help against that a bit. The other one is running crit gems instead of spirit crystals. Since almost every skill of warrior does critical damage, these critical hit damage gems will boost your damage by a good amount. Special evasion is one of the strongest stats that you can have for survivability, and they are also extremely cheap, so just run them. Hooms are just too good to not use them on warrior as well, so put them in your helmet and boots. And the best in slot crystal setup is pretty much the upgraded version of the previous setup. Now, I wanted to make this guide future-proof and include the upcoming Garmoth change to Awakening weapons. You will be able to add crystals onto your Awakening weapon if you put a Garmoth on it. There are 2 ways I see this is going in. You either remove your Hooms from your boots and use RBF Adamantines for extra resistances in there, and put the Hooms in your Awakening weapon, or use the new gems that you can put into the Awakening weapon. Each one gives 3 accuracy and 5 human damage. Or if you're big into grinding, there is a monster damage version. I didn't discuss any evasion builds, since I firmly believe it isn't worth to build evasion on warrior unless you already have full pen evasion set with high Khafra level, and that's a ton of investment. I would rather have people going DR and building accuracy accessories. Well, this video was a long time coming in my Awakening Warrior Guide series, and it is unfortunately the last one. I want to make a quick summary video on the recent patches that buffed warriors, and make a video about that. And I'm genuinely not sure what I will make after that. I stream over at Twitch, come say hi. Also, sorry for the background noises. During the audio recording, there was a construction happening very close to my house. So, thanks for watching. Bye.